So welcome to my presentation about skyrunning in Europe and mountain running. Yeah, it was not easy to choose because there's so many cool races that I've done and that exist. So, yeah, I think one slide disappeared. That's okay. So I'm gonna go through first the program. How I came to Vancouver and BC, Eric talked about it before. My skyrunning history. What is the difference actually? What is a sky race and what is a mountain run? What is a vertical and what is an ultra? And then the selection of sky races that I have. So Dolomyths Run in Italy, Tromso Skyrace in Norway, Zegama Marathon in Spain, Livigno Skyrace in Italy, the Ring of Steel in Scotland, Sierre-Zinal in Switzerland, Coma Pedrosa in Andorra, Mount Elbrus, almost in Europe, or on the border actually to Europe, and how to train for skyrunning. That's the overview. So yeah, as Eric said, I came to UBC for a few months in Vancouver to do part of my master's thesis in fluid dynamics modeling. And so there we also went skiing, climbing, running a lot. And I raced Gary's race, the survival of the fittest, and I won. And yeah, that was in 2014. There, me with Gary. And after that, for several winters, at least we did like at least one race or even more in some winters, me and Eric together in the Alps. Which was really great experience because it was quite high level, like World Cup races. Here, this is the finish line of Adamello in Italy. Quite a long schemo race also that we finished 11th place as a team. Okay, so where I'm from, this is Europe, northeastern part of Switzerland. There's a small town, St. Gallen, 70,000 inhabitants. It is just on the border of the pre-Alps, as we call them, so the sedimentary part of the Alps. And there's hills to run up. So I started running up these when I was like 12. And also good climbing in limestone. So that's why I guess I go to the mountains. So I started these mountain runs when I was about 17. I won my first mountain run in the junior category. Then I did a lot of mountaineering and climbing with the Alpine Club, and I also went sports climbing, the classic 4,000 meter peaks in the Alps, skimo, and I always kept mountain running all the while I was in mountaineering. So I was Swiss junior champion in mountain running in 2007, quite a long time ago. And then I participated with the Swiss team in several classic mountain running champs, which is not the same as skyrunning actually. They're much faster. They're usually 12K or 10 to 13K and either just uphill, so maybe with 800 to 1,200 vertical meters, or up and down, several uphills and downhills. So feel like a rabbit sometimes, running up and down the same hill several times. And then I also did some kind of expedition style things in the Andes with friends. And my first sky race came spontaneously in 2013. It was the Dolomyths Skyrace, as it was called at that time. And it was just like, we were at the European champs in that summer in mountain running, and a fellow Swiss teammate said, hey, did you know the Dolomyths Skyrace? I'm going there. Do you want to come? I was like, yeah, okay, what is that? Because he thought after the sky champs, we went running together a bit, and he saw I was quite good in the technical parts. So he's like, oh, you have to do that. And it was quite okay. I finished 8th at this. It was happened to be the European champs. But then I had like the biggest muscle soreness ever in my life because I wasn't used to running downhill for such a long time in a high pace. And then came several other sky races. For example, in 15, I won some in Italy and Switzerland. 16, I got injured as well, but I managed before to win Resegap in Italy, Skyrunner also in Italy, and also third at Elbrus in Russia. And then in 17, as Eric said, I was vice world champion in the long distance mountain running champs. And I had podiums in some other sky races like the Rat in US, Ring of Steel in Scotland. 2018, I won this Sky Classic series. So you have to do well in 5 races and collect points in order to win the overall series. And I also was second overall in the Vertical K series. And then, yeah, in 19, unfortunately, I was injured in summer, in end of January in Skimo, and I managed to recover a bit to win like the Vertical K in Japan and do some other races, but then we had to do cruciate ligament surgery. Yeah. Okay, so this is my 2 biggest successes. This Sky Classic World Cup win. That's Holly Page. She won the female title. And in Premana, the world champs in 2017, which is an awesome place because it was really unexpected. And it's an Italian race, and Italian races are always good. It's like the atmosphere is just amazing. When you finish, okay, I was third there, but then the first guy was caught for doping. So then I was second a few months later. Yep. So let's see quickly if it works, this little video about this Sky Classic, just to have a little insight into the culture of skyrunning. And you will see outcrops, clips of several races put together of that season. It was clearly my goal to do the Sky Classic series, because last year I finished just outside of the podium, and I thought, oh, maybe this year it's possible to go to the podium. There were so many good moments. Well, one was clearly the win at the Rat, because so the first win of a Skyrunner World Series race, of course, it was also quite a goal for me. Next year, I want to compete again in this Skyrunner World Series, a really different format, which I like. Maybe I'd try some new races. This year I didn't do the long ones, but I really like these. I mean, the extra ones, the quite technical ones, and maybe I'd try an ultra.
To be honest, I started the season never ever expected. I thought, well, maybe I could be on the podium. Didn't believe it until I actually crossed the finish line today. So it took a little while to realise. The whole season has been fantastic, particularly when I won in Yadding. Such an amazing feeling. I was like, totally overwhelmed. I remember crying at the end. And then I won again in Bath and then out in the US as well. I grew up doing lots of fell running, so on very rough and tough terrain. Skyrunning's similar to that, but like a bit more extreme. The more technical it is, the better. So yeah, skyrunning is great.
Okay, so you saw already several of the races I'm going to talk about. First, just quickly, this terminology about the racing. So sky race, what is it? Skyrunning defines it somehow, but it's not exactly clear. So I would define it as between 20 and 70K races, usually around 20 to 40, and more than 1,800 vertical meters. Usually the races reach higher than 2,000 meters above sea level, except in countries that don't have this elevation, like Scotland or Norway. Well, Norway has, but not all the mountains. Then the marathon or kind of fast trail races. So that's, for example, Marathon du Mont Blanc in France, Sierre-Zinal in Switzerland, Zegama. Often less technical than sky races, and they're quite fast. So you need to be also a runner, not just a mountain goat, let's say. And mountain running, what you saw before that I did when I was younger, it's quite short races and also not so technical. That's kind of from one of the mountain running European champs. Vertical, I guess you know, 1,000 meters steep plus, can also be different, but usually 1,000, and quite steep, like here in Italy, Trenta Passi vertical. And ultra, I guess you guys know, just anything longer than around 50K, I would say. So the Dolomyths Run, that's for me, it's like one of the most original sky races in Italy. And that's my first one I did. So you start in this little town of Canazei, 1,450 meters in the Dolomites, Trentino, and you go up to the summit of Pizzboe, 3,150 meters. And at the beginning, it's not so technical, but then as soon as you get to this mountain here, it climbs very steeply, and especially on the summit pyramid. And then the downhill is very special. So for me, it's like almost like two races, the uphill and the downhill, because you can do very well in the uphill, but you can lose it in the downhill. As I did in 2015, I did maybe my best result. I became third. I did a really good time, 2:03 minutes, which is only 3 minutes from Kilian's record. But like on the summit, I was together with a Colombian guy, Saul Padua, and we thought, oh, it's cool. We are like more than 2 minutes ahead of the others, but in the downhill, we lost this advance because if you don't pay attention, you don't know the route very well, where sometimes you can cut or run across switchbacks and stuff. The others come very fast from behind. And maybe also because you're just not a good enough downhiller. And it was crazy. I mean, in Italy, they send up 800 runners this mountain, which is quite insane for me. So this is the start in 2019 from the Golden Trail series. And if you're familiar with some of the faces in trail running, the average ITRA points here, like the level is really high. You see Davide Mannini, you see Aritze Hea, Stian Arvik, Karl Egloff, Oriol Cardona. It's like quite intimidating to be at this kind of starting lines, because you're like, how am I even gonna be in top 10? Like, and yeah, so you see the amount of people zigzagging here up to the first pass. It's not the summit yet here. That year, for example, 19, it was Judith Wider from Switzerland. She won in an insane time. I think it was 2 hours 18. So she beat even some strong men, and thanks to her downhill, because she's an orienteering runner. And in this downhill, you need to be an orienteering runner, like in your head and also in your legs. Let's look at this point of the route. There in 2015, it was like my first time in my life in a race. I had really crazy chills, because you come here and I was leading together with Saul Antonio Padua, and they call out your name from the loudspeaker, and the people are crazy, and it's Italy, so there's a helicopter in the air filming you, and so you you feel like, I don't know, some kind of star in a film. And that's crazy, the feeling. And I mean, you're up in the high mountains, but all this happens. And then this is the downhill. And I mean, we were going too slowly for the others, but it doesn't look that slow, right? We're just crossing down the terrain as we can, but they still took us some minutes. Not sure we have, let's maybe, no, I think.
Hey, Pascal.
Yes?
Can I ask you a question real quick?
Yes.
I think just an interesting thing to explain, when you look at that map, maybe 2 slides ago, of the whole race course, you know, it starts in town. Like, what's kind of the importance of that? Like, why start in the village versus up in the mountains?
Yes, so I mean that's very typical to sky running, right? So everyone is cheering in town. So there is, I mean, the idea is that it's like mountaineering, but much faster. So you start genuinely in town. So you leave town and you come back to town. It's logical, right? And also because just okay for logistical reasons, but also just for the spectators. So it's just a huge party. It's yeah.
Cool. And the photo that you showed with all the spectators up at the hut, how do they get up there?
Oh yeah, so there's different way. In this case, okay, it's a bit of cheating because there's a cable car going to the mountain, like besides here. You don't see it, but and they have a walk a short way to this place. But most people they hike up from the pass. So yeah, even the spectators they just go on a hike and then they cheer.
Yeah, that's awesome. It must really add to the atmosphere.
Yes, it's especially these in Italy, they're amazing. And also, as you will see in Zegama in Italy, in Spain. I'm not sure we have enough time that I show this quick video, but I think I can also show the Zegama video afterwards.
Yeah, I think the videos don't actually play very well on our end.
Ah, yes. Okay, so let's continue to Tromso. Tromso is very different in style because it's very wild and there's no crazy Italian spectators on the ridges. You're usually, for most of the time, you're just alone. So it feels much more like actually mountaineering because you're crossing these ridges. It's a very long race and you're crossing snow fields, bushes, often there's no trail. And it's hard because of that also, because even when it's supposed to be not so technical terrain, I guess you know that from Squamish, you have to go, yeah, across the bushes and stuff like that. Here we are on top of the VK course. So there's also vertical K 2 days before the Sky Race. This is the Sky Race course. And the vertical K is one of the craziest I've ever seen. It's super technical. Okay, this is the least technical part, but it's basically scrambling up a mountain. And we did it in this time around 35 minutes, 20. And it's, yeah, I think it's a bit insane because usually these kind of times you only do it when it's less technical. But I guess it's thanks to it being quite steep. And in the Sky Race, as you see, there's these river crossings. There is, so I like this Sky Race for that, for being very wild and natural. And it's very different from the Alps ones. So now we're at Zegama, and Zegama is maybe the mother of of sky races or of racing in Europe. Although it's not the most typical sky race from a course point of view, but the spectators are insane. As you see here, this is in 2018. This is my second time I raced it, so I knew it already a little bit, but every time it's tough because as you can see on this course, there's so many uphills. It's like breaking your legs. And also what you can see on the course, it's not even all the uphills because there's always some small ones, right, that are not visible on the profile. So it's 2,800 vertical meters, 42K. The record time is by Stian, who is here in the picture. And this is very special because we, coincidentally, we came into this last stretch of the main summit together. And like he just started hugging me. I'm like, what? Because there it's so steep, so you start walking. There's no point in trying to run because you're just gonna get tired for the rest of the race. And so we are like hugging and walking there into that's yeah. And people are just crazy, but they're always crazy at this point of the race. And that was in 17. The difference is, well, I didn't do much better in 18, although I knew the course. Both times I had cramps at some point. I guess it's because of the mud and also because of the length. For me, it's kind of a long race compared to like Dolomyths. As you see, it's like 20K longer. And I know for an ultra runner, that's like a sprint, but, but I guess after winter, when you haven't done so many Ks in running, it's still tough for the legs. So that's also in Sancti Spiritu, where you get into the crowd, and yeah, you have to be careful not to go too fast, because they cheer so loud, you don't feel anything, and you have so much endorphins and adrenaline that you tend to go too fast. Of course, you're like, wow, I can fly. And then when this is over, when there's less people again, maybe you crash down. Okay, I'm not gonna show this video maybe, but so yeah, and that year 18 we had a huge party afterwards, and it didn't end so well for everyone. But Zegama is known for big parties. I missed my flight because I fell asleep and I didn't put my alarm clock at 4 or something. Livigno Sky Marathon in Italy, it's a really beautiful course. It's less spectators, it's not like Dolomith. Here it's Marc Casalmir and Andorran and me on the main ridge running. This is in 2018, and it's a lot of these ridges. It's super beautiful, and you can see it has crazy steep climbs. They're not only steep on this drawing, but they're really steep, and also steep downhills. This is down from the main summit in 2017 with some Jan Margarit and Tadej Piuk, Alexis Sevenek, so some really good skyrunners. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that is also a wild one, like where you're running in a national park and a lot of trail. So let's go to the Ring of Steel, which has become now even more famous thanks to the Golden Trail series. I must say, some of the races here, they're now not in skyrunning anymore, but I still would call them sky races. They're in the part of the Golden Trail series, which is a really high level World Cup. This nice map that looks like orienteering map almost, right? You go up a huge hill, down a big hill in a valley, and then up a second big hill with some smaller rich points where you go some little ups and downs, and then back down to the finish area. So that race is, yeah, as is written here, muddy, technical, cold. I've never seen this course warm, and yeah, it's pretty gnarly. You do this, I mean, it's not a very fast time on this course, I would say, but it's just because it's quite technical. You see, you also scramble a bit sometimes. This picture is from the finish line in 2017 when I was second behind Stian Angermund, the Norwegian guy, the one I hacked before. And this is in 18 where the level was like sky high. There's Kilian being chased by Nadia Maguet, and there were many runners that could have won this race. Me here in the second uphill where it was colder, so you have to have even clothes along, which is in many races in the Alps you don't have to have much along, but here it's like it's Scotland. You also have some tracking device on. You can see on my shoulder here, you have much more safety gear along because it's a bit closer to British Columbia, I would say, like the conditions. There's no cell phone network and stuff like that. And it's also usually gnarly weather. So here, the ranking, you can see it was also the world champs in skyrunning. It was not only the Golden Trail series, so obviously the level was high. You can see that the time, the insane thing is that usually the winter times was around 3 hours, 25 minutes, and now it was suddenly 3 hours, 4. And I can't explain it just because conditions were different. It was just people were pushing even much more. And I improved my time by 14 minutes, which is, I couldn't have imagined. So I finished 5th in this world champs, and I'm, yeah, I would say really happy with that. And if you look at this, like, let's say top 16, I'm pretty sure the average ETOP points of all these guys are more than 900. So yeah, decent, right? Oops, what did I do? No, sorry. Yeah. so you can also, there's also some mental pressure, I would say, when you're racing this kind of races. And then to increase this even more, this level, is when you go to Sierre-Zinal in Switzerland. It's a very fast course, 31K, 2,300 meters D plus, and only 1,100 downhill. You have awesome panoramic views of the 4,000 meter peaks on this course. And it's fast running. You see Joe Gray from the US, you may know, Kylian Jornet, Davide Manini. And you need to be also fast, maybe almost road runner for this race, because there's some parts where people go fast and with tired legs from a steep first uphill here. This I raced in 18. I wasn't at my best shape because I just came down from the glacier from fieldwork, and I had done 2 other races, Coma Pedrosa and Dolomyths before. So, but it wasn't bad. I finished 22nd, I think, or 21st, which for Sierre-Zinal, you can be really satisfied because, as I write here, the average like ITRA score of the top 30 is maybe above 900, and yeah, if you know ITRA scores, if you're above 900, you're pretty satisfied. You're like international elite. And this is the ladies, because they run such insane times there. There's Judith Wider, Maud Mattis, also from Switzerland, Rampazzi from Italy, and they beat many quite ambitious men, I would say. And then the last one, Coma Pedrosa, oh no, second last. That's just because that's the only time in my life I was in front of Kylian. And I finished second there. That was part of the reasons why I won the Sky Classic series in 2018. Of course, he was only kind to me to let me in front. Yeah, then quickly the Elbrus race, it's very different. It's very wild. You go up a big mountain. This, what you see here, is just the qualifying race. It's the vertical. So you have to do the vertical to qualify for the actual sky race, which, okay, I don't understand why, because the altitude is much lower, but I guess you just have to be able to do it in a reasonable time. So I finished second in that vertical behind Oriol Cardona from Spain. I was with a cold and a cough, and then we acclimatized. We went to the summit with skis because the main race also goes to the summit, so you better know how to deal with the altitude. And then the race happened, and it was, yeah, it's quite special to race at this high altitude. It's also a little bit scary because, like, you're out of oxygen and you push hard. It's special. And yeah, I would say you still go at more than 600, or the top guys, you still go more than 600 vertical meters an hour close to the summit. That's with Carl Egloff and Nicolas Miranda, two Ecuadorians. Carl, he has many FKTs in the world, as you may know, like Kilimanjaro, Aconcagua, Denali, and he became a great friend since that race. He's also half Swiss, so he can talk either in Swiss German or in Spanish. And this race, of course, is like pure Russian. It's like they only cancel it if it's like crazy storm, or even if it's stormy, they may take it up to this saddle at 5,300 meters. So there's no mercy, and they are not afraid of consequences. You better dress up. I mean, I had quite a big jacket along, and even for the race, and enough food and drink. Yeah. Okay, last but not least, how I train for this. So people think, oh, sky running, you always just run up mountains and down mountains to train, but that's not the whole truth, I would say. I would say you have to have a very good strength and core as well, and you need some speed. So I have to say I also trained flat speed, because especially if you look at races like Sierre-Zinal, you have to be able to run fast. Even if it's not very fast in the race, it's just that your legs are tired. So even maybe, let's say 16, 17K an hour, it feels fast because you have been running already for 1.5 hours and suddenly there's a stretch where you need to run. And you also need the volume, of course, because it's longish races. I mean, yeah, people always say, oh, it's not an ultra, but I mean, a marathon in the mountains, it's much more than a road marathon in time, of course. And of course, you also need the uphill speed. That's obvious. Yeah, and the downhill skills is something I would say it's hard to train specifically, but you acquire it over the years. Yes, I guess that's it from my side. Some finish line fun, and I'm ready for questions. Oops. So,
Awesome. Sorry, I was
yeah.
muted there. That was really great, Pascal. Thanks for telling us about those races. I think it's always good to have the photographic evidence of being in front of Killian. That's definitely a plus. I guess one of the questions I had, just as you're kind of going between, or like talking about different races, you know, like how technical does it get? You know, and how can you kind of describe that that side of technicality? You know, because we see those pretty epic ridge running photos that you have, and like just the things that I kind of have in my mind of what skyrunning is. Yeah, I think it was even one before this that I was thinking of. Oh yeah, there you go. That, like, I mean, that looks pretty darn serious, right? But like those guys are obviously running. So give us a little bit more of like the range of technicality, because obviously some of it's trail. You know, how far into like scrambling are we getting?
Yeah, I would say that it depends a lot on the race. Like, let's say, for example, the Ring of Steel, like the next one, it has some really scrambling places and also exposed places, but it's never very long. So I would say most is still running, and especially if you're like a kind of a climber as well, like us, it's not really difficult. It's just that, okay, if you're already on your limit and you're tired, maybe it's more difficult than you would be used to. Like, you would think, oh, that's easy, but also here on this ridge, it's not very difficult. It's not even that exposed right here, but when you're tired, yeah, it's not that easy. I would say in most races, it's not that serious, except for special races like Tromso and Kima and the Glencoe Skyline. They're quite serious. And I mean, as you know, there has been an accident in Tromso. I mean, there you can really, like, if you do a little mistake, you die because you just fall off the ridge. And there is some true scrambling, but I would say the pure difficulty is never that high. It's just that it's sometimes exposed. Even, for example, in Kima, often when there is a difficult stretch, there is a chain. So it's not like you're going on a challenging scramble with friends. Of course, for people who are not used to it, I would say if they're pure runners, it's very difficult. Like some people, they're really scared.
Gotcha. And so, you know, if somebody's thinking about trying a race, but isn't quite up for that quite a serious of one, like what would be kind of the more beautiful and spectacular, but maybe less risk of death?
I would say already Dolomyths Skyrace, because it's a bit technical, but honestly, there it can't happen much there. There's some gnarly downhill sections, but it's not like it's crazy dangerous. Dolomyths Skyrace is great for that, but also, I mean, Zegama as well. Zegama, usually they hype it up a lot as like muddy and technical, but it's not as technical as they say, I would say. There's a lot of running as well.
Yeah.
There's a technical ridge, but it's not that long compared to the overall race duration. Yeah.
And so that actually reminds me of another question I had. What makes Zegama such a cool race? Like, you know, everybody that talks about Zegama kind of says that that's the queen of the races. So what is it about it?
Yeah, it's hard to explain. I would say it's the spectators and it's the setting, because it's like it's a sleepy town. There's nothing there, and you think, "What? There's going to be a race here?" It's like a really small town. You can't host all the athletes there at all. And then suddenly it's like a huge party, the entire town, and especially the entire mountain. I mean, yeah, where you go up in between the crowds, it's like the Tour de France, and it's like several hundred meters of just people, people in several lines. And I think it's that. It's that kind of lineup of fans that is crazy. And there's some rumors that say that actually people are betting on runners. Yeah.
Pascal, can you speak a little bit more to that difference in culture? I've made it over to the Alps a couple times now, and I absolutely love racing in Europe. It feels like a whole different type of sport. Can you just speak a little bit more to that, like that different mountain culture that exists in Europe compared to, you know, the experiences you've had here in BC?
Yes. So, good question. I would say, of course, as you know, the Alps, they're much more accessible thanks to the cable cars and get that kind of stuff. And that gets much more people up the mountains, right? Like people who maybe aren't alpinistic, don't have alpinist skills or so. So it's maybe more, let's say, democratic. Like more people get there, and that makes it also then more like of a party in the mountains, right? As you saw also in Dolomyths Skyrace, where you have the impression, oh, people are just going on a Sunday walk with their kids and they cheer up there. I think that's part of the thing. And then also, I think, for example, the Italian attitude of organizing these races with a lot of energy, and they do everything to make it perfect, and to have like great spectators, great like good prize money, to have everything perfectly organized. Yeah, I think that's part of it.
What about the athletes? I mean, I know the fields are deeper and you have athletes from all over Europe traveling around a lot, but it strikes me that skimo has a big influence as well on skyrunning. Can you speak a little bit to that crossover of athletics between races?
That's true, actually, especially for example in this race, you can see on the picture Alexis Sevenek, he's a ski mountaineer. Tadej Piuk, sometimes also ski mountaineer. Yeah, I think that's kind of the ski mountaineers in summer, they do sky running, or not all, but some of them. And that's true that it doesn't in that way only come from running, but it comes from mountain sports, right? Skimo. So it's true that this translates a bit from winter to summer. And yeah, and the other thing is, of course, the skimo culture where like people know each other. I mean, Eric knows that he has been to several World Cups, and many people, it's like for them, it's like meeting friends. They go to a race also just to meet friends. And it's same in sky running. You're like, yeah, meeting up at the races.
Can you just give a quick overview of the different series? Like, I know there's a bit of confusion, like sky running is kind of a type of racing, but it's also actually a series, and then there's a couple other ones. So what are the existing series that occur?
Yeah, it's a bit complicated by now, right? So it's Skyrunner World Series. That is actually a brand, and this is one, let's say, one instance that has several series. Now it's one series, one World Cup, and they also organize world championships. Then we have the Golden Trail Series, and the Golden Trail Series is sponsored by Salomon and organized by them. And their aim, they only have 5 races, which is Zegama, Mont Blanc Marathon, Sierre-Zinal, Dolomyths Run, and the Ring of Steel. And their goal is really to bring together the highest level of athletes possible and to televise it if possible. So they want to make the sport more professional. And then there is mountain running. So that's the World Mountain Running Association, which is more like a non-commercial instance. They have been organizing mountain running world champs and even also World Cup since many years, like, I don't know, like 20 years. So they're as old as skyrunning, I would say. And that's also why skyrunning calls itself, I would say, skyrunning, because they couldn't call themselves mountain running, and because they're just more technical and higher. Yeah. And yeah, and then of course there's even also more things. I mean, there's the ITRA itself, International Trail Running Association, and they also organize a trail running world championships. So yeah, there's pretty many events.
And so if you know, we're looking for a race that doesn't require a lottery, right? Like something like UTMB is, first of all, kind of more of a trail race, right? But it also requires, like, it's more difficult to get in. And also a race that doesn't require like a prerequisite or a qualifying event. So if like, what would be kind of the approachable first event that you might want to do over there?
I would say races like Livigno Sky Marathon that you can see here, you can sign up. Also even Dolomith, but Dolomith you just have to be quick signing up. It's possible. You can sign up. It's no restrictions, and you can sign up immediately. I know several people who managed, like, without like taking crazy measures to be able to sign up. And Sierre-Zinal, it's also very popular race. There's even a hikers category there. So yeah, where you start early in the morning and you basically hike. Yeah, these and I must say that, okay, these races I presented and those that are in this series, I mean, that's the big international events, but then there's always events that are much more local and smaller, but they still have many participants, and it's usually easy to sign up, and it's not even expensive. For example, Resegap in Italy, a race where I won once, that is in Lecco in northern Italy. It has 1,000 participants, and it's like 30 euros to sign up, and you get also food, and it's not bad. It's easy to sign up.
Yeah, I think one of the coolest things about like the local races in Europe is that for a very small amount of money, you tend to get like a cool race, like a nice party and meal, and like good prizes. Like it's kind of shocking, the affordability of some really cool events. Just near you, where you live in Switzerland, what's the like local race? You know, like here in Squamish, you know, we met at Survival of the Fittest, which is kind of one of our like smaller local events. So what's the one near you?
Yeah, and the problem is I live in different place, but like I would say the local one is maybe now become like a Montreux Trail Festival. It's organized by a friend, and it's in the end of July. It has several distances. It's also not too expensive, and there's even some some concerts, and so that's a cool one. That's on Lake Geneva. And then of course in Zermatt there's the Zermatt Ultrax, but it's a bit more expensive. Yeah. So I mean, as you know, in Switzerland everything is a bit more expensive.
Right.
I would say
that's the draw of Italy, right?
Sorry?
That's the draw for Italy, right?
Yeah, exactly. I would say Italy is the place to go for for racing, because of even Swiss guys would tell you that, like me. Because of the atmosphere, it's much cheaper and you get the same thing or better.
Pascal, you've traveled a lot for races within Europe and then also over here to BC. When I first went over to the Alps, I worked with Eric on my coaching plan, and Eric gave me a bunch of great tips on, you know, getting over early to deal with the time change, altitude. Do you have any tips? Do you have sort of a standard approach to how you travel for racing?
Usually I have to work while I travel, so no, but I try to take along some of my own food, because it's healthier and I can control a bit more what I eat. Except, of course, if I do like a long travel by airplane, like to the Rat in Montana, then I just eat the meal on the plane. But I would say, yeah, try to sleep enough always, of course. So don't know
Do you
what's
try to
that.
get over early? Like, do you try to get on the new time zone, or does it depend how much time you have?
Yes, I think I try to immediately get on the new time zone. Yes, um, even if I don't have much time, because yeah, it's the way. Otherwise, it's difficult to make it work. Um, and then, of course, take naps. But I would say, yeah, also not focus too much, think too much about the race. Like just do something like reading or take your work along, because you only stress yourself out unnecessarily. I mean, you can't influence the result before you're there anyway, I would say, like directly. And yeah, but I must say it's difficult not to get tired traveling. I mean, Eric knows that.
I was
From
just going to say, I think that was a bad question to ask you because you're pretty much the most energetic person I know. And I don't think you're actually affected by jet lag or time zones.
I don't know. Yeah.
Um, yeah,
That's,
that's a good question.
yeah.
And like, we didn't even get to, we didn't even get started into your travels to South America and
Yeah.
other places, but yeah, you've got quite the resume of interesting travel locations.
Yeah, one of the craziest we did was to Yading Skyrace in China, in Sichuan, because it was like 35 hours to get there. So, I mean, because you fly first to Chengdu, it's a town in China, and then you fly into the Himalayas, then you take a bus. And so, yeah, the time so there you really have to arrive several days before the race. Otherwise,
Yeah.
there's no way you're going to do well. Also because
Gotcha.
of the altitude.
Totally.
Can I'm curious about just comparing again European sport. I know you're an advocate for clean sport. Can you talk a little bit about that, about like
Yeah,
doping
that's
and
interesting
yeah.
topic. Because I must say in skyrunning, there's not enough doping testing.
Mm.
There is, because of lack of money, of course. And some races, like for example, Livigno, I got tested, but in 2017, no, 16. But it's rare. It's just because, they managed to get the Italian doping control agency on board, but usually they just can't pay it. And
Mm.
of course, like big races like Sierre-Zinal, where there's also a lot of prize money there, they have very serious testing. But yeah, and now there's also a new program, the quads program. For example, in the Golden Trail series, you always, if you're among the top guys, 2 weeks before a race, you have to give a blood sample. It's not a doping control, it's a blood sample from a laboratory. And then they take you one just before the race. And if they find something suspicious, like the values change a lot, then they make you another control. But they also control you if you're like in top 3 or so. But I mean, top 3 is nothing. Also, the top 10 guys or 20, they're really high level. So yeah, it's clearly not enough. And also out of competition testing. I mean, for some guys who are high level, it exists because like by their federation of their country. But for most not. For example, I got tested because I got this medal at the World Champs in Permana. I was in a testing pool of Switzerland for maybe 1.5 years until they deemed that I was not competitive enough anymore. I was injured. I don't know. But but there I always had to indicate my whereabouts. So it was kind of painful when you travel. Like you have to give your hotel, your flight number all the time. And when you once forget about it, it can be serious. I mean, if they don't find you, that's one penalty. And if you have 3 penalties, or if you've, yeah, then it's like a positive control. But also they didn't test me much. They tested me like sometimes in spring. They came to my office at the university and but yeah, that's a critical point. And as you maybe know, there have been some doping cases.
As is there any national team doping control? Like, as a member of of any particular team, would that trigger an increase in out of competition testing?
Yes, I think, I mean, there are some people that are getting tested because of that. Like, I think also some Spanish, like Oriol Cardona, and yeah, but it's very irregular. Some are, some not. So it's a bit random, I would say. But even the national ones, I'm not trusting so much because, well, yeah, I don't know how much to do it. And you also don't know if there's any bias, like towards their countrymen or.
Yeah. We have one question here, and folks who are still attending here, who are watching, feel free to plug your questions into either the Q&A or the chat window. Robbie's wondering what your 2020 calendar looks like for the rest of the year. I mean, with the race calendar being pretty much wiped clean, you must have some, you know, at least training and maintenance runs, if not some personal objectives in mind, possibly local. Can you talk about any of that?
Yeah, for now I just kind of enjoyed being without much plans. It's also nice sometimes just to train at home and but yeah, initially of course I had a lot of plans for like the Skyrunner World Series and also the Golden Trail Series, and there is World Champs in November in mountain running. I'm still crossing fingers that mid-November maybe they are taking place on Lanzarote on the Canary Islands. Pretty nice. But now I saw there's already some local Swiss races coming up that are probably taking place because they're local and they're not so big.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you had a trip planned to Canada, I think in June, right? You were coming for a race?
Yeah, I was planning to come to the Minotaur in Alberta, which is a pity, and now that's already postponed. Of course, I couldn't travel there anyway.
What
But
do the local races in Switzerland kind of look like? Do you have any idea what changes will be made or what will be different?
Good question. They haven't communicated that yet, but I'm sure there will be measures. Yes. I mean, there are some races that have like scheduled starts like every 30 seconds. But I think someday, just like if it's small enough, there may be some measures, but then they count on, in Switzerland, it's a lot about their responsibility, individual responsibility that people keep their distance and stuff. But I'm not sure how well it works in a race, like before the race when people meet. And so I haven't seen any, how do you say, safety protocols yet by organizers. But I'm curious.
That's interesting. I think, you know, here in BC and I would say in North America in general, races have been just completely wiped off the map. And there's really, like, I haven't even heard that much discussion about how to come back in the time being, like in a different capacity, at least for this season. But it is interesting to hear that that's happening somewhere else. Yeah,
and I must say it's only recently, like on Wednesday evening, the Federal Council of Switzerland, they gave the news about the new loosening of restrictions, and that was quite a big step. Like up to now, it was also like almost impossible to have races, but now they said like, okay, starting from now, you can have 30 people assembling and after like family meeting or so, and starting from like in 2 weeks, I think, you can have up to 300, which is already a small race, right?
Yeah.
And they also allow the small sporting events from then, but that's recent. And up to like, let's say 2 days ago, I also wasn't sure if any races. So it's like developing very quick, but I think in Switzerland it's special because our case numbers went down very much and quite quickly thanks to the measures taken. And that's why they were able to do that. Like there's only 10 new cases a day around now per day. In Switzerland.
If
before there were like 1,000, sorry?
Oh, I was going to say, you know, if someone announced a race and say they have, like you're allowed to be in groups of 300 or more, say in a month from now, if somebody announced a race that was going to be 300 people, sorry, 300 or less, not more, would you go, do you think?
I think so. I think I would go. You have to be, of course, cautious, but also I think as long as you're outside, it's much less risk. The problem is in trains. I mean, already now in Switzerland, people are they're not that disciplined. They're like, it doesn't affect me. Like they don't wear masks on the train. and it's not mandatory. Like they say, it's recommended, but there's very few people who wear them, and it's weird, like because it's not a big thing to do. And let's see how it develops. I wonder if cases will go up quickly again if if they loosen all this.
It's hard to imagine some of these races without the thousands of spectators, right?
Yeah.
Like it would be a completely different experience.
Yeah, but also there have always been some small races where there is like less than 100% participants and also not many spectators. So that may be not so different actually.
Well, and you know, you mentioned the TV component earlier. You know, maybe that is something that is kind of part of the equation. You know, if a race can happen like with no spectators but TV cameras, that potentially reaches a greater audience and you know, makes it even more possible for that race. Like, you know, that just means more advertising budget or whatever. So I wonder how that will factor in.
Exactly, that would maybe transform the running, trail running, much more quickly than we hoped. Or I don't know. Not everyone wants it to go on air, but
Right.
it could be nice because I mean, it can be good for sponsors and so also for athletes because you get more visibility.
I want to hold you to Jeff's question about what you're going to be doing this summer because it's so easy to dodge it with, oh, I'm going to stay local and I have some ideas. But yeah, I want to know one like, you know, mission that you're keen to go on where you're nearby where you are.
Yeah, now I have a cool project in my old home mountains, and we want to do just all the main all the main summits and the main trails in one day. Just a little trail project. It's like, it's not that big, but we want to do it all by daylight, so it's like almost 70K and 6,500 vertical meters, and just run all of these with a friend. And I want to do it in 2 parts of Switzerland, so twice the same, more or less. And yeah, I have some other ideas. For example, cross the Swiss Alps by stages, just running across on a pre-designed trail. Yeah, I have many ideas. Also some speed ascents of 4,000ers would be cool, running. Yeah.
Those sound like pretty good backyard adventures to me.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. I guess you guys also have a lot to do around your backyard.
Yeah, we're pretty lucky.
It could be worse. Yeah, it could be worse.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We're just we're starting to see things loosen up a bit. I guess it'll be on Monday. We'll have most of our parks back, which, as you know, the provincial parks are a lot of the area around us that we kind of recreate in, and so it'll be quite nice to have that back finally.
Wow, I didn't know that. Yeah, that was all closed. Yeah. Yeah, I must say I feel super lucky too, because I know, for example, my friends in South America, they're still locked inside basically. And okay, some of them, sometimes they go out, but it's not very legal. And yeah.
Well, and even amongst European countries, Switzerland was generally fairly
very
not relaxed, but reasonable. Like you were able to get outside, right?
Yes, all the time we were allowed to go outside and run, except, yeah, as opposed to Italy, France, Spain, Germany as well, they were allowed. But yeah, I feel pretty lucky, and I think it makes sense because if you go out alone, there's no way like something can happen, or
right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Jeff, do you have any other questions?
No, well, I was just going to say, Pascal, do you have a final slide with your contact information? How can people follow you? You're on Instagram, you're on,
I didn't put that, but I can maybe,
I'll type in I'm going to paste in your website address into the chat here.
Yes.
And then definitely everybody should search for Pascal on Instagram for sure.
But it's Pascal Egli on Instagram.
Yeah.
And pascalegli.com is the website.
Cool. Yeah, Jeff's got it in the chat there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, Pascal. Really appreciate having you here and tell us about these races. And
thanks a lot, you guys.